The Mustard Seed Media video podcast is sponsored and created by Mustard Seed Media, Inc., creating and developing media and web for tomorrow's Christian ministries. On the web at mustardseedmedia.com.
Okay, so let's open up Drupal.org and let's do a little CMS magic. Okay, so let's start with this Photoshop document here, and let's turn this thing into a website. Let's get right down to it and edit some CSS, shall we?
Welcome to the Mustard Seed Media video podcast. My name is Bob, and this is the podcast for Drupal web designers. And today we're going to focus especially on you themers. We like to theme our Drupal websites to make them look nice and look custom and to be laid out exactly how we want them laid out. But sometimes this is a little more involved than just working in our page.tpl files or our node.tpl files or some of those more common theme files. A lot of times what we need to do is we need to be able to theme the output of a specific module. Now, back in the day, before Drupal 6, this was much more difficult because you would basically have to go into the module itself, find the theme functions, you put them in your template.php file, modify them, do all kinds of stuff that now they've made much, much easier for us themers, specifically in Drupal 6. So there's a new method that you can use to theme these modules, and it's very simple, very straightforward, and I'm going to show you that today. So let's dive right in. The first thing we're going to do is look at the module that I'm going to be theming today. We're just going to use the stock Drupal aggregator module, and the reason I'm going to do this specifically is because it's a good example because it does not output nodes. Anything that outputs nodes is much more easy to theme through the traditional theme system. The aggregator does not output nodes, so it's a little more tough, or it's a little more difficult to actually theme this. So all I did is I'm just using core aggregator. I added the Drupal.org main theme, or I'm sorry, the main RSS feed, and here it is. So this is what it looks like, stock out of the box. Let's say we wanted to alter this. Right away, you'll notice that there's not a lot we can do besides some CSS stuff because it's not a node. It's not, we can't alter it in our page.tpl, etc. We need to be able to alter what the module is actually putting out. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to go into the modules folders. We're going to find the aggregator module that we want to theme. And we're going to notice these new files as of Drupal 6 in our module folder. They end with .tpl.php. We see a couple of them here. This is really great because guess what? We as themers are familiar with these because they're the same as our node.tpl.php or our page.tpl.php. What Drupal 6 has done is said, let's make it easier on themers. Let's make them not have to be developers as much. Give them files that they recognize that they work with daily. And let's make it very easy for them to theme. So you'll notice the names of some of these. Aggregator-feed-source. If we open up this file, what we're going to see is that this is all the information to theme the source of an aggregated feed. If we go back and look at our feed, that's this section right here. That's got a description, it's got a URL, it's got when it was last updated, all that kind of information, and it's all being printed out right here. So this is the actual code that prints out what that looks like, what order things show up in, what divs and classes are around them, things like that. The really nice thing that they've done, at least for the core modules, is they've put some great documentation. They show us what variables we can actually use in here. Gives us a really good idea of how we can manipulate this very simply. Now, not all modules are going to have this, especially contrib modules. Any well-written, well-documented modules will have these tpl.php files now, and most core modules do. But not all modules will have them. Hopefully, eventually, they will. It'll be this easy. So how do we modify this? Do we just modify it right in our aggregator folder? No. That would be hacking core. We don't want to do that. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to grab all of this and we're going to copy it. We're going to remember the name of this file, aggregator-feed-source.tpl.php. And then we're going to go back to our theme directory. I'm just using Garland. So I'm just going to go in the Garland directory. I'm going to create a new file with the same name, aggregator-feed-source.tpl.php. And then I'm going to go ahead and paste the code in that I stole from the other one, and I'm going to use this as a starting point. Now, the very first thing we need to do, as we often have to do in Drupal 6, is go to our performance screen, go all the way down to the bottom, and clear the cache data. What this will do is it'll force Drupal to recognize this new override file that we've created, so we make sure that it's seeing the right one. First thing we can do is just test to see if it is. A lot of times I'll just do something like this and save it, just to make sure when we look at our theme that we're seeing it. So it's printing out right there. Okay, so we know our new file's active. Now let's say we wanted to do something like, let's grab the link, the URL to this feed, and right above the feed description, let's just put something like that. Basically, we're just saying, hey, let's add a little extra text. Let's move where the URL is going to show up. So let's refresh. And it looks like I forgot to close my A tag. But you get the idea. Basically, what we just did is we just modified the output of this very simply by moving the URL up here. Let's say we don't even care if people can see when this was last updated. Let's say it's something that doesn't get updated very often. We don't want it to look ghetto. So we're just going to take out the feed updated. Save it. Go back here. And it no longer shows. Awesome. So now we can go back and we can do this with lots and lots of different spots. Let's go back to our aggregator module again. Let's grab the actual feed item. Remember the name again, aggregator item. Go back to our theme. Paste it in, save it. Let's go back to our performance screen and clear. And now what we can do is we can go ahead and we can alter some of this stuff. So let's say, what do we want to do? Let's say for some reason, if we look at our feed, this is a link to the actual feed itself, but so is this. Let's say we go, you know what, that's not good usability to have two links to the same thing in every post. So let's get rid of the URL from the actual title itself. Let's save that. And now we can see this is no longer a link. So very simple, using these tpl.php files that are included in many modules, especially core modules these days. As themers, we can very easily rearrange things that we can't do normally in our node.tpl.php. Hopefully that's helpful. It should take your theming one step further, allowing you to modify a lot of modules output that you couldn't do otherwise. If you have thoughts on this, if you have questions on this, hit us up over at mustardseedmedia.com/podcast. And this is episode 15. So you can visit us there, make some comments, give us some thoughts, any of that stuff. Don't forget to check out our other podcast, the audio podcast at geeksandgod.com as well. But until next week, bye-bye.